Hey y'all! So I'm here today with a video that's a little bit different than my normal videos, and this one's gonna be more on my mindset and kind of stuff that I've been going through and how I'm working on that, which hopefully you guys can apply to your life if you're feeling like this or you have felt like this at any time. So recently I just kind of felt like a failure without trying to sound like super Debbie Downer and like depressing. I don't know, I've just been in this like weird rut for a little while, and there's a few compounding factors, but I'm working on this right now, which is again why I want to make this video. I don't want it to sound like super dramatic or anything like that, but I do know that people struggle with things similarly to this. So here it goes. So I'm kind of been in this competitive rut for a little while now, and I just, you know, for so long, I started competing when I was 19, I'm 25 now. So for a really long time, I kind of identified as a competitor. I was a competitor and a student. That was really like what I was. And I've kind of made this shift out of both of those this past year. So it's kind of been like, wait, where's my identity? I competed a lot in order to turn pro. I don't know if anyone, you know, kind of followed that, but I did about 9 or 10 shows to turn pro. And that was over several years as well. So I competed a lot, and then, you know, I turned pro, and that was really like the pinnacle, obviously, of my amateur career, going into my pro career. And I've really just kind of been like a mediocre pro ever since. I had a really bad pro debut year, like just bad, totally like wrecked my metabolism. I should not have been competing that year, but I'm gonna do it. And I've talked about that with you guys, but it's just, I shouldn't have done that, but I did, and it was just like a bad first year. And last year I had a good year as far as competitiveness. As far as how I competed, I did pretty well. I didn't make any drastic improvements to my physique that I wanted to, unfortunately. I did look my best at the end of my shows last year. I will say that I did feel my best at the San Marino Pro, but in between all that, I had a few injuries, and I'm still dealing with one of them right now. So that led to this year being real shit as far as recovering and training, and then it just kind of got into this like mindset, you know, like, why am I doing this almost? And you know, I just really felt like inadequate as far as, you know, my placings and my physique improvements, most importantly, because placings are not everything, you guys, and placings are all over the board with bikini particularly, but just in general how I was improving. You know, like, we see all these crazy transformations, like, oh my god, look at me last year, and then I'm just like, why am I even doing this? You know, like, this is not what I'm gonna look like. And you know, it's just, so for a little while I was kind of getting down to myself, like, am I wasting my time? Why am I even doing this? Even though I had a good year last year, like, the injuries all just kind of accumulate. I've just been nonstop injured basically since I turned pro. So it's just all these little things kind of adding up, and then I was just kind of left this year like, I need to take time off to heal and recover, but kind of like, ugh, why am I doing this almost? However, the plus side of this is that I did get to focus a lot more on my business and my personal brand, which has been really, really exciting. I graduated, so as a student for 6 years, I felt, you know, that was, again, that was part of my identity. And you know, so I was working, you know, on the business, very small, kind of part-time during all that, but now I got to dedicate all of my time because that's what I'm doing. And, you know, building my personal brand through, you know, social media and sponsorships and traveling and all these different things. So it's been really, really cool, and it's been a lot different, obviously, than school. It's been a transition, almost like something's been missing, because so basically when you're in school, you have structure, and then they kind of tell you like, hey, this is what you need to do by this time, but kind of figure it out how you go. So I've been really good at, I was really good at that, and I guess I'm like, whatever people call that, like, I'm a doer. Like, somebody says, oh, go do this, and then I kind of figure out my way of doing it, and then I do it. So with the business, obviously nobody's telling you anything, and you can do whatever the fuck you want, which is cool, but there's also downsides, because sometimes I'm like, am I doing this right? Is this wrong? Is this indifferent? Does nobody give two fucks? Like, you know, like, it's been challenging to try to figure out like where to put my energies. Like, am I wasting my time with this, or is this like really good? Is this on something? And those are just things that nobody else can figure out besides you and your brand slash business. Like, of course, like, I'm not asking anyone for their opinion on this. It's just been a struggle internally. Like, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? And there really is no right or wrong, but it's just like, how much time should I put into something, right? So that's kind of been like this weird also struggle that's been going on. And as exciting as it's been to have, you know, obviously all my own direction, all my own, you know, business endeavors, it's also been semi-confusing and kind of like I'm flopping around like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? But luckily, recently, I've had a few really cool things line up. So first, you guys know Redefine Healthy Radio. Me and Paul started this podcast. If you don't know, you should definitely check it out. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but obviously, training, nutrition, psychology, travel things, catch up. Sometimes just like fun things. Like the last one we did was like about like just a lot of fun stuff with like the Olympia and like just recap on that. We're gonna have guests on, and it's just gonna be we're not really trying to pigeonhole ourselves into like one project. It's just a bunch of different things that we're gonna talk about. So that's been really cool. Everyone's been giving us amazing feedback. So that's been a really awesome outlet for me. I feel like podcasting is definitely for me because basically like these videos are more like podcasts, except you get to see me, but they're not anything like fancy like the videos that most people do nowadays. So the podcast thing has been really cool. It's like press start, I get to talk and ramble, and then press end, and then we're good to go. So that's really been awesome for me. And if you guys didn't see, I signed with 1st Phorm, so I'm so excited about that. They're an amazing company. The people behind it are just next level. The content they produce, the products they make, everything they do is just awesome, and the culture is second to none. So I'm so happy to be a part of that team and all the things that we're gonna do together. And I also re-signed with Celestial Bodies and plan on doing a bunch of things with Celeste. We have a lot just going on that is still, we're getting it all worked out, but in the next several months, you guys, I think there's gonna be a lot of really cool projects that come out of working with 1st Phorm and Celestial Bodies that I cannot wait to share with you guys. So that's been there's been awesome outlets as far as, like, okay, I feel like there's something missing. Am I doing all this right? So now I'm working with these other companies too and doing these other projects, like the podcast with me and Paul, just putting my energies into things that I feel like, okay, these feel right, this feels good. So I feel less floundering out of water. As for the competing side of things, I started working with Cliff Wilson, who is one of the top prep coaches, really great guy too on top of all that. So we started working together. We were gonna do a mini cut. We started doing a mini cut, and I just wasn't mentally in it, honestly. Like, I was excited to start, and then I just realized that like I was not putting that as a priority. Like, I was doing it when I could, and then when other things came up, I was like, oh, whatever. And like life happens, and that was just kind of taking over my priorities. And again, like I just wasn't like mentally really in it. So we're done with all that. Not really a great success, but that was all obviously my fault, my responsibility, but it's all right. So the end of the year, the goal is to continue to add food, continue to build muscle, add whatever I lost kind of back. And I've also been trying this new type of training where it's, just a little bit more like aerobic kind of base. And I'm really not in that good a shape, to be completely honest. I'm not in very good shape. So there's been a lot of stuff that Ryan's been researching with Cal Dietz. He's an awesome strength and conditioning coach. If you guys aren't aware, check out Cal Dietz, D-I-E-T-Z. And so we're trying this new thing for a few weeks, more like aerobic based type training. So I'm excited to see that. Not really sure how I can document that for everyone, but I'll let you guys know how it goes. Maybe through like story and Instagram and stuff like that. But that's gonna be an exciting new thing. And then, really just kind of work on, again, adding back that muscle where I need it, that I kind of lost for the whole, like, I've had my injury for like a year now, so it's just been like shit training since then. And also, I just talked to Cliff recently, and me and Ryan have talked about this a lot. So it's more of like the mentality that I need to have. I will have this off or on, kind of mentality, like I'm prepping or I'm not prepping. And as somebody who knows how competitive the IFBB is for bikini, I really just can't do that. Like genetically, I'm like at the bottom of the barrel, but there's some people who can, despite everything they do, they still look amazing. Like I'm not one of them. Like I actually have to diet, like I have to train hard. I don't just have like an 18-inch waist, like there's all these things that I have working against me. So I can't just expect to like, oh, I'll just prep and whatever, just walk in and crush it. No. So I need to start prioritizing more of the off season as well. And that's that kind of mindset. Cliff really said it best. Prep is starting today. Even though I'm not gonna start prepping until January, prep is starting today, mentally. So I think that's gonna be a good way for me to look at it. And that's not from a calorie perspective at all. Of course, we're gonna be adding food. I'm probably gonna be eating a good amount. But it's more so just of the, that consistency day in and day out that can be hard to achieve when you're not prepping. And trust me, I know, that's why I'm telling you guys this, because it's, I deal with clients that deal with this. And myself personally, it's not easy to hold yourself super accountable to stuff when you don't have this like glaring competition in your face. And I get it, and that is a byproduct of competing, I believe. If I was just if I hadn't planned to compete ever again, it might be different because I'm like, oh, this is just, I'm gonna maintain my look. Now I'm like, oh, I'm not maintaining this look because I gotta prep, right? So it kind of creates this weird thing in your mind that it almost becomes like this, you just stop remembering why you're doing this, right? Like as a competitive athlete, you're like, oh, it's off season. And not everyone. There's a lot of people who are great at this. I'm not one of them. So that's why I'm kind of sharing this with you guys, and I really think that it's important to, whatever works for you, you need to do. So I know for myself that I can't go like balls to the walls with, you know, tracking every single gram of everything and being super, super crazy 24/7. That's just not me. I'll do that for a little bit and then I'll just like, totally shut down. But being a lot closer and then having a little bit of wiggle room is going to be a lot better and more conducive for my goals. So for you guys out there struggling with this, you need to figure out what sets you off as far as whether it's a trigger food or a trigger behavior, and you need to figure out what works for you as far as like, okay, I'm going to prep most of this, eyeball a few things here, and then, you know, have an untracked meal or two, and then that works really well, and you're still in your mind every day like, okay, this is off season, but I'm working towards this higher goal. And I really think that that can help you guys. So hopefully that's helpful. I always say this. Why do I always say that at the end of videos? It's like that's why I have Paul close out the podcast, like whether he knows it or not, I just kind of just smile and don't say anything. So yeah, I can't close out videos or podcasts or anything like that. I'm just super awkward. So this was the video. If you guys are struggling with this, know that you're not alone. You're never alone usually in struggles, but I'm somebody here to tell you that this happens to me on a constant basis, and this is something that I've been dealing with kind of like a few compounding factors the past year. So I'm working on it. If you guys are going through something similar like this, work on it yourselves. Figure out what you need to figure out as far as, figure out what you need to figure out. Great advice, Lauren. Figure out what you need to do to fix whatever problem you're going through, and everyone's gonna have a little bit of a different problem. So those are mine. That's what I'm working on, and I encourage all of you watching, if you're struggling with something, I'm sure you are, everyone struggles with things, to really just kind of take a step back and go, okay, assess your problem and then try to figure out how to work on it. You guys will be so much better off that way. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day, y'all.